was basically hanging on a lamp on a lamp or a light, one of those standing lights, and so Mr. Belt would really, get envious of the fact that Mr. Lamp had a purpose, and Mr. Belt never seemed to know what his purpose was. Now, we all know the purpose of belts. And Mr. Belt has shared with you a little bit about how he felt not being used in the right way. Now, he had no idea what the right way was, right? And then we had Miss Vacuum there, and she kind of had a life. People would come into the store and test her out, not plug her in, but just like we do sometimes. And eventually she discovered that there was more to her life than just being pushed around, and that was to actually be plugged in and used to clean and to vacuum floors. So you guys are probably wondering, well, what was the purpose in that? The purpose in that was to give an example that everything around us, look around you, everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason of why it exists, whether it's man-made or God-made, which is pretty much the same thing. God-made has a purpose. All the way from your vacuum, to your belt, to your car, to your house, to your, I can go on and list everything, to your earrings, to your glasses, to your rings, to your shoes, to your, everything has purpose and has a plan. And that's not a coincidence that human beings seem to be making things with a purpose. That we have we naturally tend to make things or do things on purpose and with a purpose and a reason. Now, initially I had read a scripture from Genesis, and it was basically talking about how God created man and gave him a purpose. And one of the things he said was that you should be fruitful and you should multiply and you should subdue the earth. And then he told him that the fruits were food for him and that he was supposed to subdue the animals. So man started off with purpose. Creation started off with purpose. It started off in this majestic dance of life. Basically, God said, go, multiply, live, and have fun. That's Vinj's paraphrased version. But then man had an identity crisis. And in Genesis chapter 3, we see the fall of man. And that identity crisis had an impact on the earth, on creation, and everything around us. And then in Genesis 6, so we're taking a little historic trip through the Bible. And I know a lot of people here are familiar with these stories, so I'm not going to dwell on them too much. But Genesis 6, we see Noah's story. And I'm going to read Genesis 6, verse 11. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both men and the earth. So in other words, men and the earth were not fulfilling their purpose at this point. And so the flood came, and men were destroyed, and then God started over. And then in Genesis 8:15, after the flood, this is what God told Noah. Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that was with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so that they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number upon it. And there again we see the promise, or what God instructed in the very beginning. He reinforces that again in Genesis 8 with Noah. And then we have the Tower of Babel, and again people went astray and God scattered them across the earth, blah, blah, blah. And then we move on again to Genesis 11. Lots of scripture here, which is a good thing since I'm in a church. Abraham fell face down and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram, your name will be Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you." So again, God reinforces and repeats his purpose to Abraham this time, which is generations later. And the other thing that is emphasized in here is to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. So there is fruitfulness, there's multiplication, and then there's a covenant to be their God, which is a relationship, basically. So God already introduces this thing about being in relationship with people as being part of the purpose, as being part of the plan. Okay, then we move on to Genesis 35. God again repeats himself with a different man, and his name is Jacob. 35 verse 9. After Jacob returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him.